All right, good afternoon. Welcome to ULT. This is my trade journal report for February the 21st, Friday the 21st. I'm doing this actually on Monday because I forgot to record it on Friday. So I got busy and I forgot. So here we are. I did want to go back and get that out because actually Friday was a good day. Great day, 3 winning trades, 3 for 3. There were 5 opportunities and we'll go through all of those. So before we get into that though, I did want to touch on a few housekeeping things. First of all is I do trade other things. I trade NQ. And so my account balances will go up and down differently than what I show exclusively on these gold trades because I take other trades and some are wins and losses. And so I don't show my account balance because of that. It would just be kind of noisy and meaningless. The purpose of this trade journal is to really document this specific strategy inside of gold. And so that's what I'm doing. I know sometimes when I show my screen, the numbers might look kind of weird if you see an account balance over here. So I just wanted to clarify that. I do try when I can to show my entries here so that, I can see where I got in based on where the valid entries were according to my strategy. So anyway, with that said, let's get into it. Friday was a pretty good day. In the morning was a little choppy, and I noticed that a lot in gold, especially recently. A lot of times the first hour or two are kind of like humdrum, and then after that things start to move up, start to open up, and it starts to move the way we want it to move, and trades get a little easier. So, but in any case, on Friday, we came into the open range. It was just kind of ranging, right? For a while, we just been going sideways, kind of a big range, but it hadn't broken out at all. You can see the red line is just flat, which is not ideal for any, for the way that I trade. So I was a little bit cautious anyway. We have a high and a low. Again, I'm putting these circles here as the day unfolds, just as a way to keep kind of engaged with the charts and to bring my eye to those points. There are, you can put pivot indicators and things on here, but I don't really like those. I find it better for me if I kind of mark it out a little bit as we go to say, okay, this is the pivot I'm looking for. Now I'm waiting for a pullback. So we have a pivot high, we have a pivot low. We do have a pullback to the gold line. I did mark this as a valid entry, and you see we get in and chop sideways for 2 candles, hits the target, barely hits the target before it rockets up. So one of the, I guess, again, this is a journal. So here's my journaling notes on this trade. The pullback to the gold line was not smooth. And it doesn't have to be smooth for a gold line trade. But I don't want a broken pivot. So the trick here is that we do have a low, you could say, well, here's a wick high, here's a wick low, here's a wick high, here's a wick low. So where's the pivot? What's considered a pivot? What don't I want to break? Where's all that? So when I look at this, I say, well, all of this price action is really inside of this candle here, the 832 candle. And so it's really just going sideways. There's no real pullbacks here. It's just consolidating. Okay. Now this does not lend itself well to a continuation trade, which this is. Ultimately we're looking for a push, a pullback, and then a continuation in the direction of the trend. Well, in this case, there's really no trend. And so even though this works, and I do have it marked as a valid entry, I think for future reference, I'm going to look at this and say, if our pullback to my lines includes multiple candles that are more than, say, 50% wick, you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of these candles, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know, just eyeballing it, are mostly wick, which means there's no direction. It's very tentative. It's consolidation. It's not ideal trading conditions. So even though this worked, I think I'm going to look at this and I'm going to kind of add that as an asterisk that this is like, it's not a red flag, but it is a yellow flag. It's a caution. Be careful. Glad it worked out, but I think in the future, I would not take this trade for that reason. At any rate, price eventually moves up here. We create a new little pivot high. We do technically have a recent pivot high here, but price is above the red line, but the gold line is below the red line, which means that it's just going sideways. Things aren't lined up right. But we do get a high here. We get a smooth pullback to the green line, and boom, boom. In right away, out right away. I mean, this was a very short trade, 10 contracts, or no, I'm sorry, 10 ticks, 2 contracts, so $200. And that's what I did here. This, you can see, I don't know if you can see on this first trade, there's two little pink squares there, or triangles. So for each contract, it looks like they got filled at different spots. At any rate, I'm trading 2 contracts. So that's $200, $200. From there, we break down towards the bottom. We create a pivot low. We don't quite hit the green line, so there's no trade. Okay, we break back above. Here's a high. Here's a smooth pullback to the green line. I get in on the break, and boom, there we go. There's another 10 ticks, another $200. I think, over here we got filled a little bit late, so this was a little bit less. So I think the total, is total $590 on the day. So it was a good day. If we continue and look at other opportunities for the day, then we see that, price really is still going sideways. Finally, we break out of the bottom of the open range. And so, oops. All right, so you see here, we explored the top of the open range, and then we came back through, and now we're breaking through the bottom. We're creating these pivots. The problem with these pivots is that we never get an entry because we never get a candle touching the line that doesn't then break lower, right? Because here it pulls back but doesn't quite get to the line, and then this one rips lower. This comes up, doesn't quite get to the line, rips lower. This one, pivot low, we get a very smooth pullback to the gold line. Boom, that would have been a great trade. Didn't take it because I was done trading at that point, but that would have been an excellent trade. One note that I have on this specific situation, I mentioned for the gold line, only the gold line really, we're looking to not break a pivot when we come back the other direction. Okay, so on the pullback, we don't want to break a pivot and start stair-stepping the wrong way. And so that's what this white line is. This is the pivot I do not want to break. We see that this candle here at 1035 touches, the 1034 candle did touch the line. So technically you could have had your entry here. The next candle forms. I would move my entry here to the bottom of this candle. The next candle breaks that pivot and then pulls down. Okay. Now, the way that I would look at this and why this is still valid, even though this candle broke the pivot high, is because it broke the high and then ticked us in. If this candle had broken this high and formed, with its low above the previous candle's low, I would not have moved my order up. I would have canceled my order. But because it wicked up here and then pulled down, that's okay. Hopefully that makes sense. We pull down, that's a good trade. And then we get a red line entry. Now, again, the red line entries, I'm not as worried about pivots. This one, the smoother the pullback, the better in all cases. But this was still an okay red line trade. I actually took this trade in an evaluation account. And just to give you an example of how I trade, how I pass evaluation accounts, I go max contracts because that's just how I do eval accounts. And so I actually passed an account on this entry. And the way that I look at it is I need 30 ticks in order to pass a $50,000 eval account in Apex, right? Because that's $3,000 on 10 contracts. So I get in here and you can see it wicks down here at exactly, I think I'd actually taken one other little trade and made a little bit of, so I didn't have to get the full $3,000, but at any rate, this one came 30 ticks. I don't think, yeah. And the pullback was only 17. I don't remember exactly where it filled me down here, but at any rate, that was enough room without a pullback that would have hit my trailing drawdown. So even though this did have a pullback here, my entry would have been off of the 1053 candle. As soon as that formed, I put my order below it, got ticked in on the 1054 candle. My stop on these ones is always 5 ticks behind the entry candle, because I know that a lot of times this thing happens where it wants to go up there one last time, just a little bit of a wick above before it continues. And that's exactly what happens here. We get a little wick above and then the drop down. So anyway, that was a valid trade. I did take it in an eval account and passed an eval account on that trade. So that is, I think, 5 opportunities on Friday that were all, well, this one was not great. So I'm going to say 4 opportunities that were very clean. One that was messy, but they all worked. 5 for 5 on Friday. So total of $590 before commissions. I don't know what it was after commissions. Less than that, obviously, by a little bit. So a good day on Friday. It's always nice to have a good day on Friday so you can end the day on a high note, enjoy the weekend, and come back on Monday. So we will see you Monday. Bye-bye.